changed in the Legacy format. Not too sure. You also see Hoey play a different deck. You normally don't see him play Charlotte's Bug. I'm very used to seeing him play Esper Stoneblade. When I think of Matt Hoey, I think of Stoneforge Mystic every time I think of him, but he's not on that deck. So these players may be playing decks that they're, maybe not as comfortable with as their old standbys. Because when you think of Joe, obviously you think of Stoneforge Mystic as well, but he has that this weekend.
And a full playset of True Name Nemesis in his deck as well.
Not surprised, as Hoey's going to start off here with a Thoughtseize. He's going to go down to 18. And Bernal, because he did start off with the Scrubland, is going to have to put them all down. So we'll see what Joe's got here. Liliana Veil, a Ponder, a Hymnotoric, a Stoneforge Mystic, a Swords of Plowshares, and a Flooded Strand. So pretty good start here for Joe.
Yeah, and what I like what Joe did here is leading off, with the Scrubland. He doesn't want to actually use this Flooded Strand just yet, as he doesn't know what dual land he wants to go get. So the longer he can wait on that, the better.
Yeah, not just firing off a Ponder right away off of the Flooded Strand, because his hand's already pretty good, so he doesn't know exactly what he even wants to find with said Ponder.
Yeah.
So we'll see what Hoey wants to pick here. This is always the fun part about watching Thoughtseize in Legacy. When you come up against a hand like that, I mean, all those cards do such drastically different things. What are you supposed to take? He's going to go with Stoneforge Mystic, Will Hoey. So he has the opportunity to be hymned here by Bernal, as Bernal does draw a Underground Sea. Going to put that into play, and let's spin the discard wheel. As Hoey quickly lays down those cards, and here we go. 5, get that out of here. 6 will be a reroll, 1. He hits a hymn and a land, so we'll see how good that was moving forward.
And in these honest attrition sort of matchups, it doesn't get much better than Hymnotoric.
Yeah. Yep. That's when things get really scary, when it's back-to-back Hymnotorics. That's where things get really, really ugly. Both players have access to him in their deck. I know a lot of people are actually moving more towards that discard spell now. We hadn't seen it, a ton last year, but now we see a lot of it.
Him, I win was an expression in Magic's early vernacular.
That was a long time ago.
Yes.
Can we reprint him now?
No.
You see,
we could not.
A Liliana of the Veil.
I mean, you could do whatever you want.
Sure.
There would be some negative consequences.
Liliana will start here on 3. And we're going to see where it's going to go. Likely to go up. I want to see what Bernal is going to discard here, assuming that this does resolve.
And you can see, even amongst the honest decks of Legacy, which Joe and Matt are in a relative sense, there's just a disruption overload going on here.
Yeah.
Because of how explosive and consistent and powerful the unfair decks are, you need to play this level of Thoughtseize, Hymnotoric, Liliana type of stuff to be able to keep up.
One would call this honest Magic. It doesn't feel that way, though, especially when two honest decks are battling against each other.
Yeah, this is not quite Sylvan Caryatid and a Xenagos or whatever. By Legacy standards, this is honest Magic, however.
Now, there is a copy of Verdant Catacombs, and Hoey passes the turn back. So, that turn he could have deployed Tarmogoyf and a copy of Deathrite Shaman, but he chose not to, as Bernal's going to cast a Ponder here. You see he's going to draw Ponder, True Name Nemesis, and a Mystery card as the third one. It looks like he wants to keep that really, really fast.
I think Matt is trying to set up an end-of-turn Vendilion click and then starting to attack Liliana that way. He doesn't want to just run one of his quality creatures into the maw of a Liliana Edict.
Looks like Bernal added a hymn to his hand. He's going to start by upping here with Liliana. He's ready to discard. Hoey's going to discard Deathrite Shaman, and now here is a hymn. So Hoey's going to have to respond here, and that's exactly what he's going to do.
And this is the disruption overload. Both of these players are going to end all the sequence with very little to account for in play.
Yeah, but the difference here, of course, is that Bernal knows what's on top of his deck from the Ponder. So Ponder playing a huge role here because he's able to hide cards on top of the deck. There's a True Name Nemesis just hiding out up there.
Yeah.
And Hoey doesn't know about that at all. And Hoey might actually end up adding that to Bernal's hand, oddly enough. So you see, these two are really good friends, obviously. They travel to a lot of tournaments together. Some fun Magic, even though it will be competitive here. They're both playing for many things. Obviously, we want to make the elimination rounds to this tournament, but every Open Series point counts as we do work our way through Season 1 and the overall leaderboard for the Players' Championship.
For Joe especially, as he already has a very good finish under his belt.
So we see a Vendilion click here in response to the Hymnotoric. Bernal making sure to turn his head as he does shuffle that deck. There's Swords, that's going to go to the bottom. I think True Name's the one that's going to go to the grip. Now we'll pass. Let's see what Hoey draws.
Hoey's got some big rips here, right?
Yes, he does.
Charlotte's Agent could reveal Ancestral, for example, and then it's all of Joe's work is undone.
Card like Abrupt Decay. There's a lot of things he could draw. Oh, well, that's going to bite that. So Liliana's going to trade with him. Clicking out, here's True Name Nemesis. So Hoey will take a draw. He has a Force of Will to go along with the Polluted Delta. And of course, Bernal, 37th place on our leaderboard standings.
So now it's worth asking, what are Matt's main deck answers to this True Name Nemesis? Because there's a ton of variance in how these different black decks can answer at game one.
Taking a look at the deck list here, he's got 2 copies of Liliana the Veil. Outside of that, really nothing, actually, as far as main deck answers go. When we get to the sideboard, I'm sure we're going to find cards like Golgari Charm Massacre and things of that sort. But it doesn't look like there are really any answers outside of the 2 copies of Liliana. So Bernal is going to fire off a Ponder to start his turn. As again, Hoey just has the Force of Will and Polluted Delta in his grip, and he actually played the Delta for his land for the turn, as he wants to be 1 mana closer to actually being able to hard cast Force of Will.
And Joe is looking at this Ponder here with the Stoneforge Mystic, which could potentially give him quite a bit of insurance against Liliana off the top of Matt's deck.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how the Ponder resolves here. And now there's a Stoneforge Mystic, so we'll see what equipment Joe's going to search for. What do you like in this spot?
I believe Joe's going to get an Umazaz Jite here, which I like a reasonable amount. It feels like both the equipments are about the same, assuming the Stoneforge Mystic doesn't die. And if your Stoneforge Mystic does die, then you would much rather have a Jite than a Batterskull in this spot.
Yeah, it just seems like people are just searching for Batterskull less and less nowadays, especially with what True Name's done, because True Name oftentimes greater than sign Batterskull.
Yes.
There's Tarmogoyf off the top, so that's going to come into play there for Hoey. Again, just sitting with the Force Will in his hand, but he's kind of at the mercy of Bernal right now. I'm not sure what Hoey needs to get back into this, especially now because the Liliana out that he had to True Nemesis is basically off the table. And now you see Bernal's going to put the GT into play off of Stoneforge Mystic. Because no counter magic, please and thanks. And now the True Name is going to help GT get 2 counters on it. And all of a sudden, this game is looking really bad for Matt Hoey.
Yeah, a lot of his draws are cut off now with the Jite online. He basically needs back-to-back removal spells, something to kill the Stoneforge Mystic, and then a Liliana to take care of this True Name Nemesis. He doesn't have a lot of time to find it.
So Tarmogoyf comes into the red zone here. Doesn't really have much of a choice, unfortunately. And now we'll see if anything cool can happen here for Hoey, but it doesn't look like it. You see, they're going to do the count now. They're going to do the count. Tarmogoyf obviously sitting here as a 4-5. Deathrite Shaman's going to come into play post-combat. That one's not going to get much done. Bernal sitting on a very comfortable 16, virtual 20 due to the GT counters. There's a draw Force of Will. Actually has the 5th land for it, so that's not so bad, but I'm not sure Bernal really needs much more than what he's already got, which is True Nemesis with an equipment on it.
Yeah, at this point, you know, he has the luxury of killing Deathrite Shaman essentially for free and setting up a lethal attack for next turn.
That's exactly what he's going to do. He's going to activate the GT, take care of Deathrite Shaman, push through 4 points of damage, put Hoey down to 6. Hoey will take a draw. It's another copy of Tarmogoyf. And as good as Tarmogoyf is, it is not as good as True Name Nemesis with a GT on it. So Joe Bernal going to win game number 1 here over his good friend Matt Hoey. Esper Deathblade up a game over Charlotte's Bug. We're going to start on Hoey's side, which I have in front of me. Want to find answers to True Name Nemesis, obviously. He's got some. He's got 2 Massacres. He's got 2 copies of Golgari Charm as well to go along with 2 Baleful Strix, 3 Flusterstorm, 3 copies of Hymn to Thorax, only 1 in Hoey's main deck, a Notion Thief, and 2 copies of Nile Spellbound. A lot of cards he can bring in here. I don't think Baleful Strix is at its best because True Nemesis is so important. It doesn't get to trade with that. Also, I don't think you really want to cascade that with Charlotte's Agent in this particular matchup. Flusterstorm, obviously, for Storm matchups, so not so great here. So, in terms of Hymn to Thorax, you know, if you think of Jund in Modern, or even in this format in Legacy, you oftentimes board out your discard spells because you don't want to draw them later in the game. So Hoey only has 1 Hymn in his main deck and 3 more in the board. So would you want to board any more in?
I do like Hymn to Thorax in this matchup. I think it's a little bit different in Legacy, in part because you do have access to Brainstorm and Fetch Land, so you have a little bit of an insurance against drawing in at an inopportune time. So given that the upside is so huge, the him was very good for Joe that game, I feel like. And because you have some insurance against the floor because you're able to shuffle it away, I think I like bringing in additional hymns. Of course, it depends what you're competing against. I do like your idea of removing Baleful Strix because it actually blocks nothing in Joe's deck. Joe's creature base rather. It's just Stoneforge, Mystic, Deathrite Shaman, and True Name Nemesis. So not really providing any defense against what Joe's doing. If there's other similarly inefficient cards, Force of Will is not really well suited for these grindy matchups. If he can make room for it, I don't think it's a necessarily guarantee he has to bring in all 4 hymns. He's not playing against Storm or something. Hymn's not at 100% efficiency here. But I think you can find room for it. It's worth bringing in.
And of course, we're going to see Massacre and Golgari Charm come in because that's 4 clean answers to True Nemesis, assuming there is no equipment on the 3/1 Merfolk. Nile Spellbomb, interesting card, but not all that exciting. And then the One Notion Thief, I guess if he wants to get his buddy, he can bring that in.
I like the One Notion Thief here.
I don't hate it.
Again, it's a really high ceiling on that card, and you can mitigate it when it's bad by shuffling it away.
I know if I were playing against my friend, I would bring the Notion Thief just because I'd like to get them on camera with it.
Oh, yeah. Make sure you're playing against friend and on camera just makes the incentive structure really high to bring in a Notion Thief.
Oh, yeah. What's Bernal got over there?
He has 2 Pithing Needles, an Engineered Explosives, an Engineered Plague, an Enlightened Tutor, a Rest in Peace, a Counterspell, 3 Swan Songs, 3 Flusterstorms, a Humility, and a Detention Sphere. I really like the Detention Sphere as additional removal. I really like the Rest in Peace here. Rest in Peace is just pretty good against Tarmogoyf decks in general. The rest of his sideboard, I could kind of take it or leave it.
Okay.
Maybe the extra Counterspell he wants as well.
Yeah, sure.
But his deck is very well suited. A lot of Joe's sideboard here is devoted towards beating unfair decks. He has 3 Flusterstorms, 3 Swan Songs, a Humility, which is probably primarily for Sneak and Show style matchups. Because his main deck is so good against honest decks, a full playset of True Name Nemesis. He has 3 copies of Liliana the Veil, 4 Swords to Plowshares, and Nubazawa's Jitte is one of the equipment he can go get. He's really gunning for similar decks, I feel like, and trying to clean it up with the sideboard in the matchups where, the unfair decks. But that leaves him with very little room to have cards for similar type of matchups.
We'll see how these players do opt to sideboard. And of course, if you guys are just joining us, Cedric Phillips, Patrick Sullivan, StarCityGames.com Open Series here in St. Louis. It's been a fun tournament so far. We had 11 rounds of Standard. We closed out the elimination rounds earlier this morning, watched Green Red Monsters hoist the trophy. It seemed inevitable when 5 of them made top 8. And now we make our way through Legacy, round 6 of 9 at SCG Live. Hashtag SCGSTL for your tweets throughout the course of the weekend. Don't forget, during elimination rounds, we'll be giving away 3, 6, and 12 months of premium before we do close it down. Got to give one more trophy away, too.
Yeah.
Can't forget about that. As there's already been 1 given away, 2, I guess, if you do count the Pro Tour over there in Valencia. Congratulations to Sean McLaren, our newest Pro Tour champion, with a very, very impressive victory.
Yes.
With blue, white, red control in Modern. Very, very cool stuff.
An honest, normal Magic deck.
Yeah.
A deck where a regular, relatively new Magic player could look at the deck list and say, I understand what's going on here.
Yeah. I can cast Electrolyze. That's not tough.
Yeah. It's a lot of Modern deck lists. You look at a Malaria Pod deck list, it's a little challenging to wrap your head around.
Challenging is a word.
Yeah.
I wouldn't touch it. And most people, it looked like, opted not to because it's so, you really got to dig in if you want to choose to play that deck.
It is definitely a deck well outside of my range to pilot competently.
Yeah, that's how I feel too. Jacob Wilson, of course, piloting that deck to a runner-up finish. Congratulations to him as well, and everybody who had a great weekend over there in Valencia. But we turn our attention here in St. Louis to Bernal and Hoey, 2 players sitting at 4-1, Open Series points on the line. Also a top 8 berth, potential title. These players are no stranger to either one of those things.
And both players already with a loss, so this is essentially an elimination match for one of these 2.
And Hoey's going to start off with an Underground Sea. No acceleration, no discard. As there's a Scrub Land and a Deathrite Shaman. So Bernal is the one with the acceleration so far. As a Maelstrom Pulse comes rolling off the top here for Hoey. He's going to sacrifice Verdant Catacombs. Go down to 19. We'll see what dual land he opts to search for here as he does consult his hand before doing so. Of the cards in his hand, we do see a Maelstrom Pulse hanging out. There's a Bayou. And after he does shuffle and present the deck back over to Joe, we'll see what he wants to search for, as Joe does put that Death Ray Shaman and Graveyard immediately, so probably an Abrupt Decay here. Yeah, that's exactly what it's going to be.
No basics in Matt's list because the mana is pretty strained here. You know, he's playing Hypnotorac alongside blue and green cards. Although Matt, interestingly enough, has a couple of colorless lands, a single Wasteland, and a single Volrath Stronghold, which you very rarely see in these lists.
Well, it's time for another hymn again. The Fun Police is here. Reroll on a 6. I think he keeps rolling 6s. There's a 1, and there's 1. What do we hit? Maelstrom, Pulse, and Dosh. I knew the thief was coming in.
The jig is up.
Yeah, I would have bet it all. You see Hoey with a smile on his face. I wanted to get you so bad. I wanted to get you. Deathrite Shaman, the draw here for Hoey. He's got an Abrupt Decay in his hand as well. I think he might have a Jace over there. Not quite sure. Take a look at his deck list here. Make sure that he does have Jace. Okay, he does actually have Jace in his deck, so it's definitely not a Jace hiding out in his hand.
I saw a Tarmogoyf and a Deathrite Shaman.
Yeah,
certainly.
I saw that. There's an Abrupt Decay. I think there's another spell hanging out. Not positive, but we won't guess at the hand. We'll try to make sure we know exactly what it is. Yep, there's the 2 creatures and pass the turn back.
Just has an Abrupt Decay left over.
Yeah. So there's Tarmogoyf. There's Deathrite. We'll get the size on Tarmogoyf momentarily. Poor Hoey. I know he wanted to get him.
I don't blame him.
Yeah. You see Bernal's got Rest in Peace in his hand, so Tarmogoyf is going to be borderline useless.
And of
Except for that decay, of course.
And of all the people that you're going to get a reaction out of, you know.
Oh, it's Joe.
Joe's very high on the list.
Yeah. Joe thought about playing Scrubland that turn, opted not to. He's got a Tropical Island over there as well. You want to talk about a strained mana base.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's the Trop. This is the Rest in Peace. Going to clear everything up. Tarmogoyf's going to go back to being an 0-1. See how he says, is there no 1 on here? Who made this thing?
It's a 6-7 more often than it's a 0-1.
Yeah, I guess that's true, yeah. You see a Brainstorm go along with that Abrupt Decay. Let's see how he wants to proceed. If he wants to start by Brainstorming or just fire up Abrupt Decay, hold that Brainstorm for a later time. Looks like he's going to start with the best card in Legacy. There's a Stronghold, a Baleful Strix, and a Hypnotorac. Okay.
A lot of juice.
Yes. Yes, there is. No fetch land, but that's okay.
Yeah, he's looking at 4 good ones, assuming that he's willing to use the Abrupt Decay on that Rest in Peace, that even Volrath Stronghold becomes something that he might be able to utilize.
Yeah. Now, this is certainly a crucial point in the game, too, for Hoey, because this is going to map out the next couple turns because there is no fetch land to clear it and have some mystery draws coming. He knows what he's going to see over the next couple turns of this game. So you see him put 2 cards back. He's got Baleful Strix still in the grip. Resolves the Brainstorm. It's going to get exiled, of course. Looks at the Hymn and the Strix. And he says, let me get you for 1. Let me fire off 2 cards here. Bernal's got a pretty fully loaded hand. 4 cards. So we're going to see, I think it's 5 and 6 are going to be re-rolls here, just both players. Eventually he's going to get a card. There goes Scrubland. And there goes Blue Delta, so 2 lands.
And Joe already with probably more than enough mana to operate with.
Yeah. I'd like to think so.
We're looking at hard cast Batterskull, hard cast Force of Will territory for lands beyond this.
Looks like Joe had a Train Nemesis in his hand. You see a Stoneforge Mystic over there as well. So Hoey's Hymn, not so good. Well, we'll see how Joe wants to proceed. He also has a Liliana in the Veil. Not enough is as crazy as the mana base always looks in Esper Deathblade, guess who can cast all their spells?
Esper Deathblade.
Yeah.
In fairness, there's only the 1 Tropical Island in Joe's deck, and it's only for the green activation on Deathrite Shaman.
Yeah.
So not really a critical piece, but it is somewhat curious when you see Tropical Island and Scrubland next to one another.
Yeah, just a little bit. See, Bernal is going to search up with Stoneforge Mystic, a card he's obviously very familiar with. Gonna go search for Umezawa's Jite. And the legendary equipment was very good game 1, so.
I associate these kind of mana bases with some sort of Gerard Fabiano style Meddling Mage Abrupt Decay deck or whatever.
That sounds like a delight. See, Hoey's going to draw a card. He knows what he's drawing. It's Brainstorm Resolve last turn. Again, does have Baleful Strix in his hand. He really just needs to get that Rest in Peace off the board so his cards actually start doing something.
Yeah.
Bernal says, I've got 3 cards. You know one of them. Everybody at home knows the other 2. Liliana Veil and True Name Nemesis.
And I understand Matt wanting to him there. It's a pretty juicy spot to do it, but he is giving up a little bit of equity there, using the him before he gets Rest in Peace off the table. Because it would be nice to get a sorcery in the graveyard after Rest in Peace is left play, assuming his intent is to replicate this Rest in Peace eventually.
Yeah.
He may not have the option to do that anymore. It's possible that the Stoneforge Mystic is more pressing, but if you just look at Matt's board and a lot of the draw steps he's going to have going forward, it's hard to imagine him being able to cobble much of anything impressive in the face of this Rest in Peace. In fact, there's even Volrath Stronghold on top of his deck.
Yeah. Wow, Decay the Creature.
He
That's
doesn't have
scared
a
of
choice.
Jite,
Yeah, he might, you know. I understand Matt's kind of in a rock and a hard place here.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not good. And it gets even harder now, because there's True Name Nemesis. And Matt knows he's going to draw for a Stronghold. Now, Baleful Strix is going to provide a mystery card.
It is hard for me to imagine that the first Volrath Stronghold is better than the second Wasteland in this deck, for example, but it is cool to see that oddball show up from time to time.
Here's the second Tarmogoyf, and by that I mean here's the second 0-1. Bernal draws a beautiful card, a Polluted Delta, because that one makes mana and allows True Name Nemesis to hold a Jite, and Hoey just says, yep, my Tarmogoyfs are about to die, aren't they? Once Bernal figured out what land he wants to put into play for land number 4, chances are that's what's going to happen.
Yes.
Yeah. And if you weren't sold on True Name Nemesis yet, this is a great display on why you should be. Because we saw it do this in game 1, and we see it do this in game number 2 as well.
It definitely rules the roost in the honest creature battles, that's for sure.
And ignoring those Rest in Peace, just imagine if those Tarmogoyfs just had some power and toughness. True Nemesis will play the role of brick wall here.
Yeah, I mean, if there's any card in here, in this game thus far, that's been causing Matt to fall this far behind, it is certainly the Rest in Peace and not the True Name Nemesis.
Yeah. So interesting that Matt just opted to go after Stoneforge Mystic with the Decay. And here come the knuckleheads, as you like to say, in for 2. But Matt really, really struggling here as he has to pass the turn back to Joe with an active True Name Nemesis, an active Umezawa's Jite, and a whole bunch of lands.
I do understand Matt's line of play insofar as assume that you have to kill both of those cards to be able to win the game.
Okay.
You need to kill both the Stoneforge Mystic and the Rest in Peace. It makes a lot more sense to kill the Stoneforge Mystic now and assume you kill the Rest in Peace later than the opposite way.
Okay. I guess, do you have to kill the Stoneforge Mystic to be able to win, I guess is the question?
Well, that's a good question. If you can't beat Umezawa's Jite going on a 1-2, then yes.
Okay.
Although perhaps you could just be replicating the Jite at some point then.
Now here's Liliana sacrifice. You saw Jite take care of Baleful Strix, both Tarmogoyfs, which are 0-1s. Liliana sacrifice effect takes care of Deathrite Shaman. Hoey's going to show the hand, and he's going to extend it. Joe Bernal going to win this match. Move on to 5-1 with Esper Deathblade. Matt Hoey picks up his second loss here with Shardless Bug. And for the 37th ranked player, Joe Bernal, with 55 Open Series points, he's off to a nice start yet again.
Surgical is how I would describe that.
He is very skilled in Legacy. He looks very, very comfortable playing any deck that has Stoneforge Mystic and Brainstorm in it.
Yeah, and like I said, you know, it's very rare you see a player week to week just playing different stuff.
Yeah.
He's usually playing some version of Stoneforge Mystic Control.
Yep.
So it's not a radical deviation from week to week, but the fact that he went from a back-to-basics heavy build 1 week to a 4x True Name Nemesis build this week means that he believes in his ability to correctly read the Legacy metagame.
Yeah. And so far, he's been doing well. I mean, we saw him in Columbus when he was playing his back-to-basics deck before he was dispatched in the top 4 by Adam Franzi.